My joke is everybody in Miami is driving according to the law of his or her individual country of origin. We have many, many interpretations of what a stop sign might mean, or a red light might mean, or even a lane divider might mean. Nobody agrees on these things down here.
Hi there, and welcome into a brand new week on Celebrity Salute, dedicated to the men and women who serve our country in active duty, our veterans and their families. We're here for you. God bless you. We love you. On each episode, we look for people and stories with some connection to these heroes. I am Randy Miller. Dave Barry is the hilarious author and columnist who wrote a nationally syndicated humor column for the Miami Herald. He's written numerous books of humor and parody, as well as comic novels and children's novels. And he is back now with his memoir, Class Clown, the Memoirs of a Professional Wiseass, How I Went 77 Years Without Growing Up. We're so happy to have Dave Barry back with us here on Celebrity Salute. Dave, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good. What is the difference between a professional wiseass and something that I've been described as a world-class smartass?
Probably the pay grade. I don't.
That could be.
No, I think wise-ass and smart-ass are they're very similar. I mean, I don't really think there's a big difference. I don't know about you. I mean, I literally was elected class clown of the Pleasantville, New York high school class of 1965. But I was told a lot. I was a wise-ass. I was that kid, and I guess you were too, who when you're in a class and you know that there's something you could say, and two things would happen. One, the teacher would be really mad at you because it would be disruptive. And two, the other kids would laugh. You could not help it. You had to say it. That was me. That was always me. And I got told more than once, that's very funny, David, but you can't joke your way through life, which turns out to be incorrect. You can, in fact, joke your way through life. And that's really what this book's about. How did I end up joking my way through life?
And finally, answering the question, how does the son of a Presbyterian minister wind up winning a Pulitzer Prize for writing a wildly inaccurate newspaper column read by millions of people? And you're right, Dave. That's kind of how I was in school. And then I got into radio at 15, and I've always done a kind of a crazy morning show, so I never really had to grow up. And then I started this show about 10 years ago, and I kind of grew up because it's for active duty military veterans and their families. But here I am interviewing you about not growing up. So I don't think I've made any progress.
No, you're still stuck in smartassery.
Yeah. There was a time I got to ask. Oh man, I can't. I got so many things. I want to find out. First of all, what did you stole a hotel sign for Oprah?
Yeah. When you're on a book tour, I was on many book tours, you're trying to sell your book. And I get this phone call from a producer of the Oprah show saying, we'd like to have you on tomorrow on this panel about things we do in secret. In other words, you're going to confess to something you've done wrong and make it right on the air. Do you have something you can do? And I'm like, of course, I want to come up with something because you're an author. You want to be on the Oprah show.
Sure.
And so I told her that I had this story, which was true, that a few years earlier I was in a Hyatt hotel, and they had a sign in the bathroom that said, "Our guest towels are 100% cotton. If you wish to purchase a set, they're available in the gift shop for $75. If you prefer to take the set already in your room, that amount will automatically be added to your bill," which is a nice way of saying if you steal our sign, steal our towels. So I stole the sign. And I brought it home, and we had it in our guest bathroom, and we thought it was pretty funny. So the Oprah producer is telling me, "This is great. You're going to come on the show tomorrow, and you're going to tell Oprah that story, and you're going to return the sign. We're going to put it in a box, and we'll get it back to the Hyatt." The problem with that was I was in St. Louis on this book tour. The sign was back in Coral Gables, Florida, where I live, and the show was the next day in Chicago. So I call my wife, and I'm like, "You got to get this. You got to FedEx this sign to Chicago. This is urgent. I'm going to be if I don't get there, I can't be on the Oprah show." But she said, she called me back and said the FedEx people said that they can't promise that it'll get there. So I'm like, I'm desperate. So I'm in St. Louis. So I think, wait a minute, I'm in a Hyatt hotel here. So I stole another sign. It was just It was just a no smoking sign, but I thought, like, nobody's going to know if I'm. So my point, and actually, as it turned out, the one that my wife FedEx did make it to Chicago in time, so I was able to return it on the air. But my point here is, I was so desperate to be on the Oprah show about doing the right thing that I stole twice and was willing to lie to Oprah.
Oh, that is so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
His new book, Class Clown: The Memoirs of a Professional Wiseass. How I went 77 years without growing up. You look like a kid still. How can that be?
I don't know. I think it's my haircut. I have bangs, like which no grown man should have. I have the same basic hairstyle as a coconut. The hair just goes straight down. So that's I am actually, if you took that away, I'd look like 107 years old, I think.
You say Coral Gables. Is that pretty close to Miami? I know you moved to Miami at one point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm right next door to the city of Miami.
Okay. I got a buddy of mine lives in Fort Lauderdale, and my wife and I were going on a cruise.
Okay.
About 3-4 weeks ago, and I called my buddy and I said, "Hey, we're going to be flying in. Can you pick us up at the airport?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Please don't fly into Miami. Please don't fly into Miami. Please fly into Fort Lauderdale." And I said, "Well, it's too late. The cruise line booked it, and I'm flying it." And he goes, "Oh no!" And I thought, "Oh, this is you're being a drama queen here." No, that traffic and my daughter lives in Los Angeles. That traffic in Miami is this is on a Sunday. It was insane.
It is insane. And it's not just the quantity of traffic, it's the quality of the drivers. My joke is everybody in Miami is driving according to the law of his or her individual country of origin. We have many, many interpretations of what a stop sign might mean, or a red light might mean, or even a lane divider might mean. Nobody agrees on these things down here. We are the worst drivers in the United States. Not even close. Not even close.
Well, that explains the camel. Thank you. There's just a lot of things that are going on there. And now, Dave, besides the Pulitzer, you've got so many honors that have come your way. Don't you have a sewage pumping station named after you?
I do. I wrote a column once making fun of North Dakota, which nobody should ever do. Do not do that. If you're listening, do not make fun of North Dakota, because they will get even with you. What they did with me, they invited me up to Grand Forks, North Dakota in January and dedicated a sewage lifting station in my honor. And it was, you could go, it's a little, I'll be honest, it's a little bit of a tourist attraction.
Sure it is.
There is a building in North Dakota on foot-high letters that says Dave Barry Lift Station number 16. And inside there is the equipment that lifts the sewage, which is a concept I do not understand. I would leave the sewage down there. Yeah. But in North Dakota, apparently they lift it for some reason.
In January in North Dakota, sewage, nothing is moving.
Oh,
nothing is moving. Everything is frozen.
It was so cold. It was so cold. And they had this brown piece of paper over the sign. They actually had a ceremony for me, and the mayor of Grand Forks read a proclamation very eloquently comparing my work to the production of human excrement. And then they had this brown piece of paper covering the sign. And I remember, and we're like, oh, outside it's like 30 below zero. And I pull this sign, this piece of paper down. There's like my name on the side of the building, and I can smell the sewage in the cold North Dakota air. And I hear whoop, 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 which is the sound of people applauding in mittens. So it was a pretty wonderful day.
So they don't really have hands in North Dakota. It's just they.
No, they know you never see any part of anybody's body.
Right.
It's like everybody's covered completely up all the time.
Class Clown, the Memoirs of a Professional Wiseass, How I Went 77 Years Without Growing Up, is his new book. Hey, Dave, who are your comedy heroes?
Right now, it's a guy named Nate Bargatze.
Oh, I love Nate. Oh,
stand-up
yes.
comic.
Yes, from Nashville.
This guy is a genius. This guy is he's so brilliant. And what I love about him, and I'm not the first person to note this, but he is a completely clean. You could take a 5-year-old to his act. He might not get the jokes, but and yet he is funnier than anybody. And he's just brilliant. So anyway, that's my current comedy hero is Nate Bargatze. My all time, way back, there's a guy named Robert Benchley who was this humor writer back in the 20s, 30s. that when I was growing up, my dad was a fan of his, and I my dad had a bunch of his books of collected columns. I started reading those when like maybe 10 years old, and that's what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to write like that guy, which was just silly humor essays, which is what I ended up doing. So,
man, I love it. I love it. Just making fun of everything through life that's the way to go. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time, man. Just love everything that you do.
Randy, I appreciate it. And speaking of loving what you might, I would just want to thank all of your listeners for their service. So thank you.
You've been listening to Celebrity Salute. Celebrity Salute is produced by Brainstorm Media and distributed by National Defense Network, with host Randy Miller and executive produced by Nate Herron. Be sure to visit us at nationaldefensenetwork.com. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also say, Alexa, play the National Defense Network podcast.